Hi, welcome to my tutorial and method for drawing an ear. Once you get the structure in place, the process is basically shading and blending. If we look at ears as shapes, most look like slanted half hearts or apples, and most have three separate but connected areas. Some basic ear anatomy helps us here and will be useful as we draw along. I've used this photo to briefly explain my simple process for drawing any ear. Firstly, I draw a vertical line at the ear angle and add the half heart or apple outline. I then use circles and ellipses to roughly draw the contours. The biggest circle is at the top. This is followed by a smaller overlapping circle. We add a smaller ellipse at the bottom at the same angle as the ear. This is the entrance to the eardrum. The red circles and ellipses are guides only, and we have overlaid the actual shape of the ear in yellow to reflect the contours. In these images, you will see that we can use this method to draw any ear shape. Some basic anatomy is useful, and I will superimpose this image as I draw the ear. This is a list of the materials I'll be using. The 2B pencil is for the outlines and initial shading, while the 6B and 10B pencils will be used for the darks and the shadows. The erasers will be used for highlights, while the stump and tissue will be used for the blending. This will be drawn in 5 steps: the basic outline, the ear contours, shading, blending, and finally adding the highlights or lighter areas. Ears come in all shapes and sizes, but they all share a basic structure. Start the pencil line at the top of the ear to the earlobe to reflect the actual ear height. Draw a heart-shaped outline which will curve in as we get to the bottom, and then upwards where the earlobe meets the side of the head. We are now drawing the largest circle to the right of the top half of the ear. The distance from the edge of the ear should reflect any image you are drawing from. This doesn't have to be a perfect circle, as some of the outline will be erased as we go along. We are adding the smaller overlapping circle, which reflects the middle and generally largest depression in the ear. Finally, we are adding a slanted ellipse for the concha area. The ear canal itself is covered by a fold of cartilage called the tragus. Time to overlay the contours. Starting at the top, we draw a line roughly parallel to the outer edge of the ear to about 2/3 of the way down. We are adding the slightly raised mound or tube of the cartilage that starts at the left of the ear, nearest the head, to the middle of the second circle. We are then emphasising the contour around the concha back up to the antitragus and extending this upwards to the left of the large circle. This is the left side of the antihelix. Okay, time to erase our rough outline. Now we need to draw a line from the middle of the top down between the helix and the antitragus. The relative distances of each of these contours will depend on the specific ear image you are copying. We are now adding the same triangular shadow at the top and redefining the ear contours and outlines. Using a 2B pencil, I am lightly shading the ear and its surrounding area. We do not want to use heavy pressure, as we do not want the strokes to show through the final blending. I find it easiest to use the side of the pencil and hold the pencil loosely away from the point. A clean tissue helps with the initial shading to smooth it out. Unfortunately, the tissue will also absorb some of the graphite. So the process as we go along is one of layering by adding graphite, then shading with the tissue until we achieve the desired mix of darks, midtones and lights. To identify the darkest shadow areas, it is important that we work out the location of our light source. In this case, the light is coming from the top left of the image. This means that any depressions or areas covered or sheltered by cartilage will be darkest. I am also adding the darks around the ear where it casts a shadow on the side of the head. This helps to make the ear pop, as the resultant contrast will create a more three-dimensional and realistic image. This is where a paper stump is very effective. This helps to push the graphite into the paper surface. The aim with our shading and blending is also to remove any of the white of the underlying paper texture to create a smooth transition between the ear tones. Again, we are overlaying our previous lines in this layering shading stage. I'm now shading the area near the triangular fossa. This area is darkest nearest the helix, given that it is partially shrouded by the helix cartilage. I'm now gently shading the concave area between the covering curve of the helix and the slight mound of the antihelix. I'm now shading the area around the earlobe to highlight the curved mound. This shading is being extended upwards around the helix. This contour is curved and therefore the transition between dark and light is relatively smooth. The tip of the stump is useful to dig into the detail areas and those with sharp tonal transitions. Given that we have several graphite layers, we are pushing a bit harder on the stump to blend them in. I am also using the side of the stump to more aggressively smooth some areas. Its compacted side and greater area allow for a better result. That said, it is important that we push the stump along rather than across the ear and head contours. There is also a line of reflected light to the right of the helix between the head and ear that we'll need to leave a little lighter in tone. I'm also using a 10B pencil to finalise the darkest shadows. I have created a jagged line rather than a smooth one here, and will need to correct this. To do so, I've erased the line and have redrawn. Generally, you'll find any errors can be corrected pretty easily if you're working with graphite. I'm using a pencil eraser to pick out the preliminary highlights. These may look overly bright compared to the rest of the ear, but we will soften these as we progress. Basically, we are highlighting all areas that are raised and which will be illuminated by our light source. The kneaded eraser has been moulded to a tip and gently dabbed to soften the transition between highlights and midtones. While it looks a bit dappled at the moment, we will tone this down with the paper stump. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thanks so much for watching, and happy drawing. Please subscribe if you liked it.